Mr. Maponga is here with us. And last time I spoke to Mr. Maponga, he told me about interesting things. He told me about the three fields, that is the mind, the reproduction, and also the land. I was very much intrigued, by what he had said.
And I really wanted to know more. So I reached out to Mr. Maponga. I said, okay, we have to be lectured just a few minutes, an in-depth view into the three fields, which is the land, reproduction, and the mind as well. And we have some agenda also. We're going to discuss with Mr. Maponga on how, Mr. Maponga is an amazing writer, with amazing books like So You Want to Be the Master, the recent book which just came out, Find Your Truth. So we're hoping to have some of Mr. Maponga's accessories in terms of, you can see the beautiful hat that he's wearing. He actually made it himself by hand. And we're hoping to have, see, he's even changing to more. So we're hoping to have the Mr. Maponga accessories and hats at Zola Bantu store, which will have Mr. Maponga's books, it will have Mr. Maponga's hats and different merchandises that Mr. Maponga produces. You can see he's wearing them at the moment and he's trying them out. Mr. Maponga, if you can let them know more about the merchandise, the hats and the beautiful thing on your neck.
Well, in my extra time when I'm free, then I do a little bit of art over and above, playing some music instruments and drumming, a bit of art, a bit of writing, making some clothes, and yeah, we're here in Africa and we have to harvest our indigenous knowledge and try as much as we can to commercialize it and without losing the cultural value of what our forefathers have left for us. Yeah.
Absolutely, Mr. Maponga. I myself, I'm in the beautiful nation of India. I am from Congo, Democratic, but I live in India. We have some leaders here who are coming from Cameroon. We have some people from South Africa as well, from Nigeria, and also we have a brother in Belgium and also in Nigeria. Today's agenda, as I spoke to you last time, we would like to really collaborate with the work that you do as well, to see how we can bring the merchandises to Zola Bantu, and also hopefully to have you as a lecturer once in a while, maybe every 3 to 4 months, to really teach us more Zola Bantu. Like I said, my friends, those who are watching us on Facebook, Mr. Maponga writes and he publishes things daily. So many of the things that he can talk to you, he has already written them down that you can access to read. He doesn't have to repeat it all the time. I think it's time for us to really dive into the action part of our fight. So today, Mr. Maponga will give us a small in-depth into the three fields. And then after that, that'll be about 30 minutes. And then after that, we're going to have a discussion on the products that Mr. Maponga produces and also the books, how we can incorporate it into Zola Bantu. And I spoke to Mr. Maponga last time. He mentioned something interesting about buying trophies. I think he will elaborate much further into that. And some of the things that he would like to teach us Zola Bantu in regard to religion and economics once in a while, every 3 to 4 months. Mr. Maponga, over to you on the three fields of humanity, you said. The field of the mind, reproduction, and field of land.
If all of you can show me, I was working in the garden, so don't worry, my hands are a bit dry and white, but if you can show me your hands, then we can get started. We are just about 5 of us, so I think it is safe that we can all show our faces so that I don't be speaking to ghosts. Others put dogs and flowers as profile pictures, then they send me messages, can you still recognize me? Then I say, your ears have gone big, because they will be looking like the dog on their profile, you know, but so just let's get started. Show me your hands, all of you. Zola Bantu, I can't see you, and the other Zola Bantu also. Yes, 5 on the right and 5 on the left. I like the gentleman there at the center. He has already made a diamond, and I'll get there. You can almost see the diamond on my head already, on my heads. We'll be taking it through downloading African indigenous knowledge systems quickly. So you have 5 fingers on your left hand. Let's call that your mother's hand. You have 5 fingers on your right hand. Let's call that your father's hand. But all I'm interested in for now are the 4 fingers on your left and then the 4 fingers on your right. That speaks of the 4 grandparents who make your mother. In other words, your grandfather and grandmother, mother's side, and the father and mother on the mother's side. And the same thing goes on your father's side. So you have the 4 that make the 1, if you understand what I'm saying. For your mother to be born, she needed 2 parents on both sides that made her to be 1. So 4 make 1 on your mother's side, and 4 on your father's side make 1. And the 1 on the right, which is your father, and the 1 on your left, which is your mother, when those 4 come together, boom, you have your first diamond. So the diamond speaks of your compass as an African. That becomes your paternal side on your father's side. On your left becomes your mother's side, your maternal on your mother's side, and your maternal on your father's side. Behind you, that is the paternal on your mother's side, and in front of you, that is the paternal on your father's side. So that gives you what I call a compass in the African spirituality space, where your left shoulder speaks to your mother's mother, your right shoulder speaks to your father's mother, your back side speaks to your father, your mother's father, and your front side speaks to your father's father. That gives you the north, the east, the west, and the south, which is the compass for the African child. So the whole myth that we usually have that you have a 1 totem is not correct. As Africans, all of us have 2 parents. So initially you have 2 totems that you work with, and the 2 give you the 4. The 4 give you the 8. The 8 give you the 16. The 16 gives you the 32. And within 6 genealogies, you might actually discover that you are connected to everyone that is in your land. And I'm starting from the bottom. So when an African says, I'm a child of this land, and you can trace your genealogies, you can't fail to see how you are related to every one of us. Hence, our surnames mean nothing, but our totems are where the value is, because surnames are Eurocentric, but totems, those animals, whether you're from the birds, from the crocodiles, from the lions, from the hippos, or whatever, to link you up so that when you find a lion in the Zulu kingdom, which is the Leo in the European zodiac, which is the Shumba in the Shona tribes, which is Taung in the Tswanas, which is a Banda in Malawi, and you can go further up in Nigeria and Senegal and find out what is a lion in your own tribe. You may actually discover that totemically, the whole of Africa is connected. We are actually connected by our totems, more than we are connected by our surnames. So borders become totally immaterial. Now, here is the secret. Before any man can enter any woman in terms of having sex with her, you need to understand that you are having a conversation with the 8 ancestors who are sitting in the womb of this woman. Are you there with me, guys?
Absolutely, sir.
Yes, we
Absolutely.
are.
When you
Yes,
enter, you are in conversation with the owners of this womb, who are actually all of them interested in what you are bringing about. So you want to find out before you enter, are you linked up to these families? How many of these genealogies are actually linked up to you? Is your mother in there? Is your uncle in there? Is your grandfather in there? Is your great-grandfather in there? And etc. And of course, as Africans, we never marry forward. We can marry to the side, left and right, and you can marry backwards. But you can't marry the same totem with your own father, because then it mixes up your genealogical connection in terms of your blood relatives and increasing chances of abnormalities in terms of genetic recessions and etc. Some of you are scientists, you'll be able to apply your minds to that and actually understand that African science is way more advanced and educated when you are told you don't marry front, you can marry to the side and you can marry backwards, but you can never marry forward, because that means literally you are moving to be marrying one who has the same genealogical composition with your paternal side, and the chances of having recessive genes of abnormalities are slightly higher. Of course, when people are in love, they tend to do some ceremonies to cancel those relationships and etc. and inform the ancestors that I'm going to marry one of you, la-di-da, la-di-da. But under normal circumstances, when all chances are possible, we always advise the young people, don't slip forward. You don't slip forward. You can slip to the left, to the right, and you can slip backwards. So that gives us our etymological, anthropological connection, one with the other. Sex stops being entertainment, but sex becomes a spiritual, cultural communication between two timelines, the people of the present and the people of the past. And when you greet and you are getting into that space, therefore it's a serious conversation. But in Farmers of Thought, we've designed 3 estates. You'll understand why I gave you this information at the beginning, because I'm going to end there. We have 3 estates. The first estate is the estate between your 2 ears. That speaks of your brain. Yes, you can go ahead. The first estate. And it grows grass. It grows grass on it. So it's a field. It's a field where lots of stuff is happening. It's a field where people plant seeds, plant information. It's a field which has entrances through your ears, through your eyes, nose, and senses. And take note that all the 5 senses are actually located within the space of the head, except the feeling. Then that is therefore extended to the rest of the body through the skin itself. But the face also has skin. So all the 5 senses are actually locked up within the head space, because the head becomes the collecting center, a receptor of critical information, spiritual information, academic information, cultural information. It goes through all those centers into the fulcrums of your head. So your first field you want to look after is the field of your mind. Question: who is planting in that field? Question: what kind of seeds are they planting in that field? Question: how are they harvesting the content they are planting in your field? And question: are you responsible and in ownership of your field that is hanging between your ears? Field number 2 is the one that is between your legs. And later on tonight, when you sit around alone and no one is watching you and you take off your clothes, you may find there's grass there also. There's grass that is growing there. That speaks of reproduction. That speaks of posterity, continuity. Who is planting? Where are you planting on that field? Because through the second field, you are able to own and reproduce yourself to the next generation. As I said initially, therefore sex is not entertainment. It is actually a connecting cable between two generations. The ancestors that are in you as a young man, they are connecting with the ancestors in the woman to create another generation of yourself. So the young people of our days who consider sex as entertainment have lost the plot altogether. Because every time you take off your clothes, you are accessing spiritual spaces of connectivity and continuity. And therefore, you need to understand even issues of biological wars, issues of pharmaceuticals, contraceptions, and population control, inclusive to vaccines and other modern problems that we are facing. That the war has moved from between our ears. The war is now between our legs. Who controls the population? How many blacks do we need on the continent? How many whites do we need in the world? How many Europeans? How many Indians? How many Chinese? And those with money have decided that we don't need as many people. We only need 1 billion people on the face of the earth for the resources that we have. So the other 6 billion must be eliminated. And you eliminate them through contraception. You eliminate them through wars, through hunger, through poverty, through pharmaceuticals, genetically modified foods, and anything else that will make sure that the populations don't increase. Why? Because the resources are not increasing. Therefore, the war between your legs is the economic war. The economic war that is founded on resources. Because the more we are as Africans, we will be able to utilize our resources and not be able to share those resources with the Europeans. But if they want to share our resources with them, then they need to reduce the population of the African, the population of the Indian, so that the resources of the African can also be shared by the European. Resource number 3, which is number 3 estate, the estate underneath your feet, that speaks of your land, the ground itself. And as I always say on all my presentations, never make a woman pregnant before the land is pregnant. Every man needs 2 wives. The first wife is land. The second wife is the one who gives you children. If the land is not pregnant, it is illegal for you to make a woman pregnant. A lion pees around its territory first before it uses its sperm for reproduction. Therefore, pee or urine for territory, then sperm for reproduction. Are we therefore saying animals and lions are smarter than we are as Africans? How can you begin to have a family if you don't have territory? Territory speaks of estate. Estate speaks of land. Without land, it is illegal to reproduce. Therefore, the land underneath your feet, that's why when our forefathers, when we were born, they would cut our placentas and put them in the ground as a deposit, as a birth certificate to the land that we belong to. So that when we eat from the ground and we dance on the ground also knows us as we know the ground. And one day when we die and we are buried back to the ground, the full deposit is paid. Therefore, land to us is not just an estate. We don't own our land owns us. From it we came, to it we shall return. You cannot give a man, therefore, land underneath his feet when he does not own the land between his 2 ears. And he does not own the land between his legs. Farmers of Thought seeks to encourage the African children to begin to understand the power of wealth that is created by owning the 3 estates. Owning the estate of your thoughts, that's education. That's academia. That's why all of you right now, you're in the Western world, in universities and etc., studying, because you're trying to develop the estate of the mind. But after you develop the estate of the mind, are you also responsible for your estate of reproduction? And when you have the 2 estates above, do you have the land on which you can reproduce yourself and continue your history and continue your genealogy and continue your narrative? Therefore, in Farmers of Thought, we say when every child is born, they are born with three estates: the estate of the mind, the estate of reproduction, and the estate of the land underneath their feet. The four fingers, therefore, in front of you would be speaking of the West, the Americans, the North, the Europeans, the East, the Chinese, and the South, the Africans. Question: how are the Westerners utilizing their land? How are they utilizing their land? How are they utilizing their land? The Northerners, the Europeans, what is their policies about land? What is the policy about land? What is their policy about land? The Chinese, how are they maximizing on their land? How are they maximizing on their land between their legs? How are they maximizing on the land underneath their feet? Ultimately, when you come to the South, which is the Ubuntu, which is the African state, what is our history with our land? What is our history with our land? Ultimately, what is our history also with our land that is underneath our feet? This becomes an academic institution where we are challenging political rigma, religious perspectives, economic principles, logistical, agricultural principles, pharmaceutical principles as to how is the African maximizing and working to beneficiate himself from his estate, from thought to reproduction to production that is underneath the field, underneath the land itself. And as farmers of thought, and as we are talking to all of you, we want to say when you wake up in the morning, put your hand on those three estates. And as you work in the day, distribute your energies, your efforts, your investments into those three estates. Because these are the blessings that all of us, we have when we come into this world. Those who are rich and those that are poor is determined by how they maximize their land. This is how I want you to think. This is how I want you to feel. This is how I want you to do. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Maponga. We really appreciate that deeper explanation of the three fields. I have never heard it better than that. Now, with our leaders here at Zola Bantu, we'll just give an opportunity for some of you to be able to ask Mr. Maponga one question each, and then we dive into the other because Mr. Maponga has something else also coming up. So just one question each from everyone here regarding the three fields, and then we'll move on to the second agenda as fast as possible. You just put your hand up and I'll select you. You ask a question. Keep your question under 30 seconds to 45 seconds, not more. And then Mr. Maponga will answer it in a minute or two, and then we move on forward as fast as possible. Time is important. You just raise your hand and then I'll offer you the opportunity to ask your question. Any question from anybody? Yes, we have.
When they don't ask questions in my village, they say either they understood everything or they did not understand anything.
We have a question from Ms. Lebohang. Please, Ms. Lebohang, keep the question under 45 seconds and then we'll move on. Yeah, Ms. Lebohang.
Thank you so much, Zola, and to all the leaders. Babu Maponga, thank you so much. We are so blessed to have you today. You are awakening me more and more. I've just listened to you and listening to the perspective of how we must follow these steps as human. And it takes me back to now when we look at what is happening. There's our boys, especially I'm a lady from Soweto. Every time I'm in a taxi or in a car and I pass a young boy who I see that because of how we've been raised and what is happening, there's drugs that have taken them over, and it's so difficult to see that boy when they ask you for a rent. how do you relay this message? How do we help them wake up? Because the system has suppressed them so much. So what would you say for us to try help these men now who cannot pick themselves up, especially who are very angry, because this awakening has caused a lot of men to now wake up and realize what has been stolen from us. But most of them, they are angry and they've given up, and drugs has taken over. What would you say, and how would you advise us to try help these men now to wake up and see all these pointers that you've brought to us? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lebong. Over to you, Mr. Maponga.
I think your question speaks of political, social, religious rehabilitation. And how do we rehabilitate a program totally? And I'm not looking for a temporal solution, which only looks at how do you remove street kids and give them a home, or buy a farm and try and create employment for them and what. But we are literally dealing with a system, an academic institution, and a political colonial system that flushes people out of the system. You see, if you're poor in mathematics and in English, you won't make it in this life. Literally, it's like even the vocational schools are not, they closed all the FET schools. If you're South African, you know what I'm talking about. And they only left the academic schools to be running. So at the end of the day, if you are not going to be getting 80, 90% in memorizing things in class, you're not going to make it in life. That's a fact. So your question is quite deep, because it challenges the academic curriculum, it challenges the social structures, it challenges the religious structures, it challenges the community and cultural structures. How are we preparing our children to face the neo-colonial institutions with skills so that agriculture, for example, remains basic? Because any nation and any human being who cannot look and cook and plant food for themselves, they are not human. For argument's sake, you are not alive. If shops are closed and you find that you are going to die, you are not human. You are not normal. Because at the end of the day, you need to know that food does not come from the shops. Food comes from the ground. So we have people like you on this platform right now who are watering grass around their yards, and they're prepared to go to the shop to buy food. Are you okay in your heads? Are you normal? That you are paying for water to water grass and flowers, and you cannot put a small little garden at the back of your house to plant vegetables and tomatoes and carrots so that you can eat from there. When children grow up not knowing the first wife, the land, and they're in a hurry to meet the second wife, the girl, with a weave, you have destroyed the community altogether. So my 2 cents, your question, I cannot answer it, madam. Let me not lie. It's a huge question that almost speaks of how do we reconstruct a society to build up children who are able to survive in a neo-colonialistic, schizophrenic political environment and the religious, European religious environment. That's huge, madam. I think we need a whole new lecture where we can actually look at how do we reprogram our social structures. And that is right through from TV, entertainment, education, pharmaceuticals, agriculture, development, technology, innovation, politics, and etc. And if these principles are not taught to the young people at an early age, they end up on the side of the road because they don't see where they can fit. Most of the artists, for example, brilliant people, but because they could not cope in class with A, B, C, D, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Pythagoras theorems, they end up on the streets. But you find them now doing arts and excelling, millionaires. People like Bill Gates did not finish their school, but they're innovators who have been able to create wealth out of innovation. The question is our academic institutions, are our academic institutions able to produce for us young people who, when they don't make it academically, they can backtrack into the skills that they will have learned from a cultural space and make meaning out of their lives? I'm sorry, I'm not able to answer your question. All I can do is to give you pointers as to where the problem is sitting on. And I think it's on political and social re-engineering. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Maponga. Let's have the next question from Brother Gilbert. Please, Brother Gilbert, keep it under 45 seconds so we can move to the other agenda, and then the other questions we'll see how to have it before we end. Go on, Brother Gilbert.
Hello, everybody. Mr. Maponga, thank you very much for honoring our invitation. It's a privilege for us to have you in our midst. We have a lot to learn from you. I have a question that I've been thinking about. How I've read a lot about you and I've listened a lot about you. So the opportunity like this, my question is that what do you think, or how do you think this school of thought, this farmers of thought, one, how do we call it first in Swahili, a language which I hope and I believe all of us should be able to speak. How do we call it in Swahili, and how can we introduce it to the society? When I mean society, like the base, let's say starting from the basic level of studies to any level. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Brother Gilbert. Over to you, Mr. Maponga.
Firstly, I think that you as academic people, my privilege has been to structure the thinking of farmers of thought. I'm already writing a gospel according to Maponga J, which is the software itself, over and above the 6-7 books that I've written on African re-engineering strategies. But then you need to take this concept into your own languages and translate it into your own personal cultural norms. I know Nyerere came up with Chama cha Mapinduzi, Ujamaa, you know, we have Chimurenga in Zimbabwe, we have, Mau Mau in Kenya, but all these were liberation movements. The question is, how do we translate the farmers of thought, varimi bepfungwa, abalimi bengqondo, or I don't know how you can put it in your own language. But the issue is when children are already used to farming physically, they can take the principles, because this is the social re-engineering strategy where you are working from the known to the unknown. Since they already know that you must water the ground, how do you water your mind? You must trim the branches. How do you trim your mind? You must know the season when to plant. What is the correct timing for doing certain things, so that even marriages and stuff, business can be taught from the agricultural construct. So I don't know how you can translate it. Again, for the second time, I must apologize. My Swahili is not as good. It's chitukutuku, nini wewe. I might not be very good in running around, except jambo sana, wenda wapi, neni nataka, but you may want to apply your mind as an indigenous Swahili person and translate this principle for us into farming the mind, farmers of thought, farming the mind, and come up with a theme for us, which we can now use for the Central Africa, someone in North Africa, in Nigeria, and Ghana. They can also come up with something in the South, Ilima, I can maybe work around that, in Shona. But at the end of the day, the concept is simple, because I know I'm dealing with a modern society. So if I should say farmers of thought, someone should at least understand when I come up with things like hats, and I'm now talking about decorated thinking. And then you see the diamonds on my hats, you see the various colors on my hat. That speaks of the chakras, the energies. How do you eat green? Where do the green foods go? Into your stomach. The purple foods into your third eye. The red foods to enhance your blood. The yellow foods. So it's not just fashion. Our forefathers left for us actually a template of knowledge, of diet. Even the medicines in the field have color in them. So that when you are walking around the bush, even when you don't know what trees they are, when you see the color of the tree, the roots, the bark, and the fruit, and you can see the color, you can almost tell this will be good for my blood, this will be good for my brain, this will be good for my heart, this will be good for my gut. So for me, this ancient knowledge that our forefathers have been able to put as craft, it's not craft, ladies and gentlemen, it's not craft. Don't buy craft, study it, understand it. It is software. It's a library of information.
Thank you so much, Mr. Maponga. We have Brother Peace. Brother Peace, just a quick question from Mr. Maponga. Brother Peace, go on.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, I really take it as a great privilege to be here, and I really want to thank Zola Bantu and Mr. Maponga for granting us this opportunity to speak with him. My question is related to religion somehow. I'm from Nigeria. When I speak with people that are enlightened or awakened, so to say, mostly in Africa, they attribute certain setbacks that we have in Africa to religion. Most of them like blame it on the Western religion or the religion that we imported. And I'm raised by a pastor and a pastor missus, and I grew up with some religious bias. And although I'm trying to be as open-minded as I can be, but I still have some religious bias. But I want to ask Mr. Maponga, what is your take on the effect of religion, or so to say, the Western religion on our mind in the continent of Africa, sir?
I want to challenge everyone on the table. I think it's about $10, if not $9. There's a book that is available there entitled Find Your Truth on Amazon. You can be able to download a soft copy. That's a book that I wrote myself, which is a bridge. Find your truth. Find your truth. Download the book for yourself. Purchase the book. It's a book that I did myself, which I've managed just to upload as of 2 weeks ago. First time. I'm actually, this system is owned by white people who are still trying to break in there and spread the information as much as possible. If I had all the money in the world, young people, if you are fundraising and are good at it, let me know. There's a book I want to publish for free entitled African Solutions, where I've put about 36 or 52 essays on the various elements of African development that we need to look at. Inclusive to that is religion also, and the colonization of religion. The white people think that they are superior to blacks, but when it comes to the Bible, they place themselves at the center of the Bible. By making Abraham white, they are making Perez white. And if Perez is white, then Noah is white. If Noah is white, then Enoch is white. Methuselah is white. Then Adam is white. Without wasting your time, God must be white. And if Adam is white, Abraham is white, David is white, Joseph is white, Moses is white, Solomon is white, then don't have a problem when Jesus comes out white. But how do white people place themselves in an African historical setting and make themselves the ones who are giving salvation to the black people? See, this is what messes up my head totally. That when it is convenient for them, blacks are uncivilized. But in religion, white people remain the saviors of the black people, to an extent that a black man must accept a white Jesus. And by accepting a white Jesus, why do you have a problem with his child and his cousin, who is the white man, who also is bringing salvation to you? So we can understand actually what I might want to call the colonization of the Bible, the colonization of religion, the colonization of Jesus, even the colonization of God himself. That all the iconography and advertisements that we see about Jesus are all white. How can he leave Africa as a black man and come back as a white blue boy, white blue-eyed boy with white hair? And the black man must accept Jesus. But now that we know that the history, that Jesus is black, wow, will the white man be able to accept a black Messiah and still remain a Christian? Then you begin to deal with your own demons as a child of a pastor, to ask yourself the question, did you accept religion as a truthful historical narrative, or as a colonial narrative which advances white supremacy. That's your problem. That's not my problem. I've overcome that boundary, where now I know that the Bible is written from the Torah from Abyssinia to Kemet, and Kemet, the Egyptian writings, and from the Anunnakis and stuff like that. Before the Bible was written, the Egyptian writings were already on the walls in Egypt. Those parables that you're talking about, and etc., the pictures of mother and child, Jesus carrying a lamb, and all that stuff, the Egyptian history has all those stories already in the wall 3,000 to 5,000 years before the Bible was written. And in the space of academia, we say the oldest is the authentic. So if Egypt had it, and Jesus grew up in Egypt, what he was teaching, was it biblical theology or it was Kemetic theology? Number two, if Moses was in Egypt, when he wrote the 10 commandments, and we know that Ma'at has 42 commandments, did Moses plagiarize the 42, or did the 10 come down straight from God? Those are the problems you must start dealing with. And if you are a really vigorous scholar, I challenge you to go further and find out for yourself. The answers are waiting for you. When a student is ready, the teacher will always appear.
Wonderful. Our last question, Mr. Maponga, is coming from Brother Odell. Brother Odell, yeah, just a quick question to Mr. Maponga, and then we'll move on to the next agenda.
Yeah, good afternoon, Brother Maponga. It's I'm very honored to get the opportunity to speak with you. I have a question about the Farmers of Thought group. Are you the administrator of the group?
Farmers of Thought is complicated because Facebook sanctions me quite often. So once in a while, when I am blocked up, I ask other people to stand in. I've given 2-3 other people permission to access the page so that at least we can keep the conversation going. But yes, I am the genesis of Farmers of Thought. I am the originator of AIM, African Indigenous Movement, and Farmers of Thought, Farmers of Thought Healing Center, something like that. So,
yeah, because I was a member of the group for a while, for a few months, I think 2 or 3 months, but I stumbled on a few, maybe I stepped on a few people's toes, so they removed me from the group, and I didn't have any explanation why. I don't know why I was removed from the group, because maybe
send me a personal WhatsApp message. Zola can give you my number. I'll add you back on the group. Yes.
All right. Thank you very much for that.
Wonderful, thank you. Just another quick.
I have a very, very short question to follow up with the topic. A very interesting topic is about. I'm just questioning how did it get so far that that Africans, after all of that, what happened with the apartheid in Africa, and what you know about in the Congo, what you know about in Zimbabwe, what you know about now in West Africa, in Chad, basically all over Africa. How come that there is no national sense of being in Africa? People they don't value life, they don't value themselves, and they just accept Westerners. They trust everything that Westerners tell them, and it looks so silly from the outside looking into Africa, because people over here really think that Africans are stupid. They have scientists here even claiming that they know that our African mind have an IQ points about 70, right? And they say, yeah, European minds have about IQ about 120, and Chinese have about 140. You know, I don't believe in the IQ test. It does not confirm somebody's intelligent or not, but it shows that, you know, when you look at the leadership, when you look at the decisions, how come nobody is really, even if Africans do not get access to capital, yeah, even if they don't have access to capital, they have some people who have a little bit money. They can just make sure you have a national environment that you trade among yourselves, just like how the Jews do, just like how the Chinese do, just like how the Indians do, just like how everybody's doing that. So why can Africa not do that? They don't. We have something in common. We all have Afro hair. You know, and one thing, it's shocking to see that most people in Africa who are successful, they all cut their hair, all bald hair. They don't want to show their hair. And that's the thing what we have in common, right? So we should work on that, on our appearance, our culture, our heritage, or who we are. Maybe you could answer the question, how did it get so far?
Thank you, Brother. Thank you. Go on, Mr. Maponga. Thank you.
Two or three pointers I can share with you. When you cut a tree and you leave the stump in the ground, all you're waiting for is the season where the rain will fall and it will start shooting again. The project of colonialism has been going on for 400 years. Our educational system teaches the African politician, the African middle class, to move away from themselves and become European. That's why they put on those bow ties and they bald their heads and they put on and drink up their moyets and sip their wines. So education is a passport to run away from being an African. That is the reality. Our parents tell us to get educated so that you don't become poor like this poor man on the side of the street. I want to challenge that IQ test, by the way, when it comes to food production and survival, that if you take a child in the Kalahari who has never gone to school and they can walk through the desert for 16 months and they know where to drink their water and treat themselves and find food and etc. And they have the intelligence of looking at the footprints on the ground and tell this animal was here yesterday, this one is sick, this one is pregnant, by looking at the footprints on the desert sand. I want us to take that IQ test and then test the American, test the Chinese, and test the black man and see who comes up with 180 IQ and the other one comes up with 0.2 IQ. So some of these intelligences, let's agree, they are designed by those who want to design them with pointers to issues of mathematical calculations, spelling accuracy, geographical, geological knowledge, where is China, where is India, and if you know quickly where these things are, then your IQ is better than the other one. But I think in the real sense of IQ, if it is measuring intelligence, intelligence must be measured on what I call environmental intelligence. Are you aware of who you are? How do you speak to the wind? How do you speak to the water? And how do you speak to the land? And if you are related, and that is African spirituality, by the way. On another day, I can take you through a whole lecture on the three pointers, the trinity of African spirituality, which is the wind, the water, and the land. So when it comes to how far did we go and how did we get here, the problem we have faced is that we have gone so far as 400 years, moving our minds in the colonial direction. It's our generation that has started to wake up to discover that we have the resources, we have the mindsets, we have the land, we have manpower, we can rewrite this narrative. And I think this is the age of awakening. And it's upon you as young people, some of us as old people, we are just remaining here as conduits to share that information with you who still have energy and power and life itself to realize, re-educate, create platforms, write applications on apps, on Facebooks and Twitters and Instagrams and Play Stores, which have to do with harvesting indigenous knowledge system and communicate that with your children. We need to understand it took us 400 years. I don't know how long it will take us to walk back, but it needs one generation to say it stops with me. And I'm talking to the right people today. It stops with us. There is no child of yours whom you're going to force to worship an image called Jesus. There's no child of yours whom you are going to tell that drinking tablets of human embryos is better than drinking herbs. It stops with us to know that African indigenous knowledge system is equally superior as to the Chinese medicines and European medicines. The list goes on to fashion, list goes on to indigenous governance systems. Politics is another problem that we are facing, where politicians are signing treaties with colonial governments, and they want to create Africa to become a colony of European education systems. So we have politicians as gatekeepers, we have pastors as gatekeepers, we have academicians as gatekeepers to make sure that the African child does not go back to himself, but goes into European, into Chinese, into Indian knowledge systems. The onus is on you as African young people. What are you going to do about it?
Thank you so much, Mr. Maponga. If you can, for that beautiful response to Brother Odell. Mr. Maponga, if you can just allow me, please. We have Brother Flavi, amazing brother, who wants to just ask a quick question. Brother Flavi, we will move on to the next session. Just Brother Flavi, yeah.
First, yeah, greeting. What a great lecture, and yeah, we are blessed and honored to listen to you today. When you touch on the field of the mind, reproduction, and the land, as we know, our forefathers back in the days, for example, when a son wants to get married, they will make sure that they prepare a land for him so that he can build a house and do the ceremony like lobola, to marry the wife, and then that person is gonna go to build his house. There were already a land there, but in our generation, I feel like we lost that, and so we are rushing into marriage, but whereas we don't have land, we don't have resource, and we don't know how to look after our family, and plus the situation, that the reality that we are living, sometimes the economical situation is very hard for some people to provide for their family. So my question to you, farmer of thought, is how are we going to teach and educate, especially our people in Africa? Because we know some of them, they don't even want to live in the place so-called province or village. They're all rushing to live like in the, in the big cities. Whereas in our province, that's where we have big lands. That's where we can farm. That's where we can, build our homes and stuff like that. How can we teach them to, to value our land? And the second question is for some of us, like me. I was born in Congo. I'm living in UK. I've been living in UK for 10 years. So as you know, when you're living in a foreign land, you don't have land, right? You can have an opportunity to go to university, to studies and acquire knowledge, but you are limited, So how can we use our expertise and our knowledge, to work together hand in hand with our brothers back home? For example, my field is technologies. How can we work together with our brothers and, to teach them something that we learn from outside? We can also learn about, our African cultures and values and the reality that is happening in Africa, so that we can all learn from each other and try to develop as a people. Thank you very much. Once again, really honored to listen to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brother Flavi. Yeah, Mr. Maponga, you can respond in a few minutes.
In a nutshell, don't study to be employed. Study to bring solutions to the community. I mean, let me just zoom in to you. Let me not even make it philosophical. You're an IT person, congratulations. Do a Google map of your village right now. Find out where they are. Go back to the village with as little as £1,000, with a server and a computer. Open up emails for the whole village. Link up the village with their children who are in Europe, who are in America, get letters, and people can be paying you $1 per email. And you're connecting and you're already making business. Create a business, collect that same platform, walk around the village, see the products that they're producing, put them up on your site, sell those products to the international community. Use your IT skills to create employment in your village and add value to the poverty of your people. Uplift your people. Basically, it can't be more clearer than that. So instead of you running around the world thinking you're going to be making money in the world, the money you're looking for is actually in Congo. What if in your village right now, there is a deposit of gold, platinum, and diamonds, and you're sitting in London and people don't know, but because you are IT inclined, you can do a geological map, attract funding to a mine in your village, do some assessments, use your skills to add value to your community. I can't say it louder than that. But when your education system teaches you at the end of a 4-year degree how to write a CV, you must know that, sorry for the language, you are fucked up for life. You are messed up for the rest of your life. If by the time you graduate with a CV, you must know that you are doomed for life. Because you cannot walk back into the same system and become a slave of the same system. Go to school to learn. But when you have learned the skills, take them back to your people. All of us who are here on this platform, you are millionaires, multi-millionaires in exile. As simple as $1,000, £1,000, €1,000 out of that seat with $200 for a ticket back to your village with a business plan of how do you create employment in your community. In the next 5, 6, 7 years, you'll be able to fly me to your village and say, Mr. Maponga J, please come and have a conversation with us. Here's a stipend for you for 15, 20,000. Please go home and enjoy yourselves. Because you're already educated. In my village, we say, a man with one eye is a king amongst the blind. Now here you are. You have the one eye. You have the one eye. Now you know the international community. You know how business happens out there. The people in the village are still blind. How do you take your one eye back to the village and convert that into business? That remains your business plan. Maybe in your final year at college, you need to start back and look back and say, how do I take my academic skills back to my people? Do they have a water problem? Do they have an education problem? Do they have an IT problem? What are the challenges and how do I use my skills as a solution to that problem? And when you can offer a solution to the community is willing to pay you a premium for good service. I thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Maponga. I think that was the questions for the first session. And now we'll be letting Mr. Maponga go very soon. I just want to give the voice to our very own brothers here on how we can collaborate with Farmers of Thought's messengers on how to be able, like Mr. Maponga says himself, we are already millionaires. Brothers here, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Brother Avi. And again, yeah, I'll also take the opportunity, Brother Maponga, to thank you for coming on our platform and sharing your wisdom with us. I came in touch with you in January earlier this year, and I think my mind has just opened the more I listen to you. But anyway, so we Zola Bantu, I'm sure you've heard through Brother Avi, but with this very diverse group of individuals scattered across the continent and sometimes on other continents as well. And we're always looking to partner, but add value. If you go to the website, you'll see a lot of the projects that we are into. We're trying to raise funds of our own through our community and our ambassadors. We value your partnership. So, we're more than willing to engage with you and by, helping to promote some of your products, and trade that off with some wisdom coming from you as well. And look forward to a more sustainable relationship with Farmers of Thought and the two organizations. So there's nothing we can tell you here that you don't know. But again, thank you very much, and we look forward to engaging and working with you in different ways.
Thank you. I would want to suggest that I could take the 12 of you on this platform into the Farmers of Thought training program, which will take you maybe 4 or 5 or 6 hours of training. But you can only graduate when you have trained another 10 people also. And then the 10 must train another 10, and the whole concept of helping Africans to begin farming can become a reality. I think that value is what I can add on the platform right now, over and above the books and the paraphernalia that I have. I don't like selling these things to Africans. I would rather teach you how to make them. Then you can also use them as project initiatives in your communities, wherever you are in the world, that we can now upload some of these products and begin to create a market out of our knowledge systems. So that maybe I could, on another workshop after the Farmers of Thought Training Institution, we can do 1 or 2 workshops on the crafts, where I would challenge you. We sit around in one afternoon, you go, you buy your stuff, you come around, I show you this, how you do this, how you do this, how you do this. You may not need the skill, but make it so that you know, so that when you meet those who may need it for survival, they can actually run. I sat down one night, that was on Thursday night, and I made up 25 of these hats, literally. And I discovered that I almost created 24,000, which is about $2,400 in less than 3 hours. And I'm posting 10 to Germany tomorrow, another 5 or 6 to America, and etc. It's the kind of work that young people who are sitting around smoking marijuana under bridges, they're polishing their legs to go for prostitution, they can actually convert their hands into an industry and create money over and above agricultural projects, cultural artifacts, medicine, for example, and other forms of indigenous harvesting knowledge and packaging it and selling it at a profit could actually become a center of Zola Bantu initiative, that when we have the skills and we impart those skills to the young people, we could have been able to change their lives for the better. So I would challenge that if we all on this platform should become champions of the Farmers of Thought ideologies, and not just to learn them and do them. And then identify 10, 15 people that you actually share the skills with. Only after that can I graduate you to say you are qualified with the background that you have passed on the information. And that for me is much better than me charging you lousy $50 or $60 for a hat, and you don't even know what architecture, what are the pyramids talking about, what is the yin and the yang, the black and white, what does that talk about? How do you eat green? How do you eat red? And if you don't know what is the emptiness of black, darkness, how do you work with darkness and get light? So it's not just about buying crafts, but it's now beginning to put the very education into these artifacts, so that when people use them as Africans, we actually are in touch with the knowledge that our ancestors left for us. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Maponga. You mentioned something last time with me. You said that we should buy trophies. I just wanted to go in a little bit, in a few minutes into it. Buying trophies, it's a very good idea as a way of also raising funds as well.
All right. Not necessarily this one, but I designed a trophy. I made this one myself, which I think as an organization, you can actually maybe come up with 10, 15, 20 trophies, and we identify African leaders. For example, you look at Muammar Gaddafi, and as Zola Bantu organization, we can have a trophy for Muammar Gaddafi for the contribution that he made to be given to his family. And I guarantee you that the family will be willing to contribute money also towards Zola Bantu in terms of advancing your program. I'm looking at Magufuli, I'm looking at Kenneth Kaunda, and some of the stalwarts that have died. But over and above those that have passed on, even those that are still living, like the Lumumbas, for example, the Chihombori lady in America, and etc. When we recognize them and we add up their profiles on our organization, it begins to add value to what we are doing and networking with like-minded people that can assist us to drive the vision forward.
Thank you so much, Mr. Maponga, for having the time to talk to us at Zola Bantu. We are absolutely going to get our ambassadors up to taking the training workshop with Farmers of Thoughts. That would definitely be an honor. We've been able to keep the time to respect your next appointment. We really appreciate you for coming and teaching us and really opening our minds. We thank you so much, and we're looking forward to the workshop and also working together as well in promoting the Farmers of Thoughts products, learning how to do them, and also the idea that you just introduced to buying the trophies as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Maponga.
We will be on Pan-African TV. I think it's a German-based TV, Pan-African Daily TV. They will be celebrating my birthday. I turned 53 a few days ago. So the German station decided to collect and call some African artists. So it will be cultural music and everything else, virtual celebration of my birthday. I'll send the address to Zola Bantu there, and some of you who want to be part of it, please feel free to share the link and join with us as we celebrate my birthday. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Nakei kasilobi nako zonga mopembo ezali ndeli wateo nakei kasilobi nako zonga mopembo